Welcome, 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 all of our beautiful friends around the world. Such an incredible honor to be here with you right now. Please feel free to let us know in the comments where you are. And if you're catching the replay, feel free to put hashtag replay so that we know that you're receiving the love and the light that we're sharing with you here right now today. Today, it is such an incredible honor. We have Leanne Edwards here with us today. And she's here to share, I imagine, quite a lot with us. And part of what she's here to share with us is this foundation process and the embodiment of evolution. And so thank you so much for being here with us today. Such an incredible honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, for this invitation to meet you and your community and connect with you all from Bali, Indonesia, where I am today.
Yeah. And I'm just, before we came on, I was just like, kind of like a time warp, seeing the background behind you. It just immediately takes you right back to Bali with the beautiful wood and also you can't help but feel the incredible peacefulness and serenity that's there by how you are embodying as well. So yeah, I just, just so super grateful to be here. So we would just love to hear a little bit about your journey and what has brought you to this point in time in your life.
Well, before I open the door to that, may I invite everybody to really just drop into their bodies and into the present moment. Yeah. Closing the eyes, opening the mouth, closing the jaw, and exhaling with sound. So as you exhale and drop into the body, letting go of everything that came before now, so that you may fully arrive into your body, into the here, into the now, into the present moment. And on the next exhalation, letting go of anything that's coming after now. And bringing into your awareness the importance of your own body and the place on the planet where you stand today. So just taking a moment to really honor your own body and this place on the planet. As I honor Bali, Mama Bali, this place on the planet where our main ley lines or arteries, dragon lines can connect. This island in the Indonesian archipelago whose sole destiny is for health and healing, for embodiment and evolution. For if you can be fully here now and fully connected to your body or land and what is being shared here, you may receive so much more than what is being shared just simply verbally. Thank you. Thank you for being here now. Thank you for those of us, our sisters and brothers who have yet to join this journey with us. And may it support all in the time to come. So my hero's journey is quite unique because I never really got plugged into the mainstream matrix. I grew up as a bush baby from the south, from Aotearoa, New Zealand, land of the first light, also translated as long threshold to the universe. And my relationship with nature was fully supported and integrated from a very early age. the oceans, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes were a big part of my childhood and growing up. And for some reason, I left that land at age 20 on what I thought would be a 2-year OE, overseas experience. And it's now 33 years later. And my life has been so so generously fulfilled and transformed simply by allowing natural evolution to happen. As I stepped from one occupation to the next, all of it happened very naturally and organically. Coming from a background work of waitressing, hospitality industry, hotel and tourism, banking and travel and tourism, I left on my great overland encounter for 6 months through Asia, Middle East, and all through Africa to London. And it changed my life. I literally had 200 pounds left to my name when I saw those white cliffs of Dover. It was winter time, I cried, and all I wanted to do was go home, but I couldn't. So I stayed. And I did odd jobs in the UK for a little while, but eventually I ended up working for that very same company. And I spent next 6 years of my life leading expeditions, particularly through developing countries throughout Asia, Africa, Middle East, and South America. And it taught me so much about life, about humanity, about it did not matter where we came from on this earth. We faced similar challenges and problems, regardless of ethnicity, religious background, socioeconomic group. And it taught me to step into other countries and cultures and learn to adapt to other people's ways without judgment. I learned so much from the countries and cultures I visited, but also those that joined the journey, for they also came from many, many different countries, be they Americas or Europe or Australasia. And it was something you did for love, not money. But it made me realize also that something I learned very young, when adults said money makes the world go round, I'm like, these adults don't know what they're talking about, because actually it's relationships that they're always talking about. And so perhaps it's relationships that actually make the world go round. So one thing we really need to master on this earth plane is relationship. And relationship starts with self, for that is reflected in our external reality. So I was learning all this at the same time, drinking a lot of whiskey and wine, wandering around barefoot and sleeping under the stars on the earth, and visiting all of the ancient sacred sites and energy vortex without having any conscious understanding of really what my soul was about or what I was here for in the long term. So that alone was really very reassuring to know that our life, if we allow it, will prepare us for our soul's journey, for our walk and our work on this earth, our service to our planet and to humanity, if we allow it. So after my years of overlanding, I actually ended up in Africa. At first in tourism, managing a luxury lodge and a big valley operation in Lower Zambezi, Zambia. But after 3 years of burnout, I asked my partner, no more, don't let me come back. And that's when we became volunteers for Conservation Lower Zambezi. And so I stepped into conservation, wildlife habitat protection, community outreach, environmental education projects in Africa, in Zambia for 5 years, and then in Ethiopia. And one of the most extraordinary realizations were when we relocated from Zambia to Ethiopia. My partner and I had come together in Ethiopia. And I knew as we entered Ethiopia the second time, that that would be the end of our journey. And it was 2 years later, I received my cosmic kick out of Africa, out of my conservation work, out of a 20-year relationship. And it was time for me to show up for my soul work. So I was reluctant at that time to step out into the unknown, because I think I'd experienced such an extraordinary life in the 3D up until now. And even before that, when I was stepping out into the unknown, I could see a little bit of what that might look like. But this time I couldn't. And leaving my life in Africa was pretty heartbreaking. But there was a book I read of Jane Goodall some years earlier, a book called Reason for Hope. And there was one little paragraph in that book that Jane wrote when she came to the end of her time in Gombe streams. She knew that she would have to hold that feeling and connection to Africa and nature inside of her for what she had to do next. And I just started sobbing with soul realization, not realizing that that too would be a similar journey for me. And because I resisted at first, I resisted going out when I was being called to, which naturally I had followed prior to that. I actually got really, really sick. My body stopped working, my brain stopped working. In 16 years in malarial areas, I'd never had malaria, yet I'd treated many with it. And because I stopped following my flow, my whole energy system dropped, therefore my immune system dropped, and everything Africa had to offer climbed in and on and through me. So it was quite an experience that I didn't have 1, 2, but 3 strains of malaria, 2 reoccurring, typhoid, Helicobacter pylori, Giardia, roundworm, and a lump in my left breast with a matriarchal lineage of breast cancer. So it was like, that's why I call it my cosmic kick out of Africa. It's like, are you listening now? So that took me back to Aotearoa, New Zealand, to have surgery and to go into stillness and realize that I had to change the way I was walking in the world. And eventually I would need to leave my partner and leave Africa. And while I was there, it just so happened, Alberto Violdo's book, Shaman Healer Sage, found me on a secondhand bookshop. And it went into my bag and it came back to Africa. And I knew I had to go back to Omo National Park because I hadn't finished what I had to learn there. And this is a national park on the border of Kenya and Sudan and the lowlands, the Badlands, where there's about 16 ethnic groups that are at war with each other. And we were in the middle of this area. So book and bag back to Africa, and also very much internally knowing that I didn't have a lot of energy. So I kind of went quiet while that energy could replenish my system, which had been so drastically depleted. And so that's where I read Shaman Healer Sage. And as I did, I knew my path was a path of the shaman, in realization that all of our paths are the path of the shaman. And so I registered for the Four Winds shamanic light body course, knowing that it was my pathway of remembering. And biggest investment of my life, that a lot of people said, oh my God, how long is it going to take you to earn back that $20,000? And I'm like, I don't need to earn this money back. This is an investment in my life. And it was the pathway of remembering that really accelerated. Because as I stepped out of Africa, my conservation work and that relationship, and into that path of the shaman, my remembering was very rapid, because I was not plugged into the matrix or into holding on to anything of who I was, where I came from, or what I was here for. In fact, it was very much about letting go of everything and everyone I thought I was, to discover who I was really here to become. And I'm very grateful for that journey. And at the end of that journey, which it's generally a 3-year course, and I had a feeling when I stepped out of Africa that it would take 3 years to clean up my physical and energetic body. But within 18 months, I literally received the transmissions that reconnected me to the earth and the grid, and my life came online, and it has been blessed and incredibly guided ever since. And I knew then, if I could do that, others could. And it has become part of my service to support others through that foundation process, so that really they can unpack all that is not theirs, come into coherence and alignment with what is, and allow their lives to come online also, and live the lives they came here to live. So there's a long story short of what led me to now.
Thank you so much. What a rich and incredible journey you have had so far, and you have so much more ahead of you. Thank you for sharing. There are so many pieces that I resonate with. I had completely forgotten that I had wanted to do that same Four Winds program as well. In college, I had you just reminded me of that. So thank you for reminding me of that. So interesting where life guides us. And also just in Bali, and I served in the Peace Corps as a volunteer for 2 some odd years, in Nicaragua, and all the other places where also, my body was this like antenna and was showing me ways that I could be in better alignment with myself and my energy and my connection. And so the body is just such this amazing way shower of what's going on if we're allowing ourselves to listen. So yeah, wow, how powerful. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And the first meeting I have with people of the foundation process is actually an alignment of the bodies. Because if we can align and integrate our physical body with our mental body, with our emotional body, and bring that into coherence with our all-pervading soul, higher self and oversoul, life just becomes so much more easeful and full
effortless.
From that point alone.
That's absolutely right. Are there, go ahead.
Yeah, especially for those who are very empathic, very sensitive, then it's quite often they've separated out those bodies. It's not safe to be in this body on earth, and I'm too sensitive, so it's better if I don't feel. So there's a bypassing or disassociation of the emotional body.
Mhm.
Often they've got amazing minds because their mind has the capacity to multitask multidimensionally. So then all the energy is kind of up here and out of body. And also is to, one of the things that we need to get to know is actually how our animal functions, how the human body functions. Because when we actually understand the human body, the gift it is, and how it functions, we can better support its function. And when we better support its function, we're able to maintain the coherence and integration through the bodies.
I'm loving all of this. It's, it's just like everything. Yes, 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 yes.
And it's actually when we, there's quite a few pieces to the puzzle of actually coming into full alignment, coherence, and integration. So first, it's to understand what is informing us.
Mhm.
And most of us are aware of the majority of what we've experienced in this life, although there can be major traumatic experiences from this life that have been pushed into the unconscious. So whatever we've experienced in this life is informing us. It sits in the blueprint or the etheric realms and informs our physical, mental, and emotional bodies. Everything that's informed us in this life, including our cultural conditioning, including the religion from which we originate, which we might not be practicing, but our ancestors did. So therefore, it still informs us. Anything unresolved in our ancestral lineage is informing us. Anything with thought forms and belief systems, patterns of behavior, anything that's unresolved in our soul field is informing us. And that can include past lives or parallel timelines in this planetary system, but also may include past lives or parallel timelines in other star systems in our solar system, in other galaxies, in other universes. It's not simply reserved for what we've experienced on this planet. And that's all informing us. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people do their work on a physical or mental, emotional levels, but they're still stuck. And that's when we really need to start looking into the unconscious. And if we can't do it for ourselves yet, it's to source support outside with somebody who resonates, who is embodied, that can support us with excavating our own unconscious. Mm-hmm. And that's really important. And coming back to mentioning relationships earlier, is to understand that our inner masculine learned how to behave in the way our father behaved, in his presence or absence. Our inner feminine learned how to behave from our mother, in her presence or her absence. And our ability to our masculine and feminine within to come into union within is often a depiction of our parents' relationship or lack of. And unless we resolve this, we will keep repeating it and fulfilling a family prophecy that is not our essential soul's course or path. But until that's resolved, we're still operating in a survival mode and we're still looking externally for our wholeness. So the big components of the foundational process of our embodiment and evolution is bringing resolution to that masculine and feminine within, bringing them into sacred union with them. And it's interesting because I spent many years in the field of sacred sexuality in Tantra. And this part is a really important part, I find, particularly for people who consider themselves light workers or empaths. Because a lot of us start in the love and light brigade. and the more traditional Eastern paths, which are of a pure heart and enlightened mind. But to actually anchor through our embodiment, it's not just pure heart and enlightened mind. We have to get right down to the root, the core, and the base. And the only way we can really relax into that, open and expand, is when we have no shame, fear, or guilt around our sexual centers. And when our root, family, tribal issues have been resolved. And that is what allows us to fully land into this body. So in the years when I was working with sacred sexuality, we used to do a 3-minute sacred, shamanic sacred drama to get up and act out the relationship between our feminine and masculine. We did several workshops over years, and I did this many times. And then one day I'm actually, my inner masculine and feminine are doing really well. What I need to explore today is actually the integration of the alien, the extraterrestrial, and the animal human body. And that was really quite profound for me and everyone in the field, because I didn't plan anything. I actually started off dressed in this big, shiny, satiny, golden robe I had from Egypt, standing on a chair as my extraterrestrial nature and self.
Amazing.
And I was just standing there. It's like feeling at peace, at ease, very connected with everything is, but looking down really at the planet, at Earth, at humanity, and being disconnected from it. So what I did is I took that robe off, and I had nothing underneath, and started crawling around the earth as a naked animal. And it felt very vulnerable to be down there in my animal skin only. And I was on constant alert, looking out for threats and dangers. And it's like, well, it's not that one, it's not that one. And then for whatever reason, I came around on all fours, picked up my robe and wrapped it across me. And it dropped. It's for us to be fully here, we actually have to integrate our extraterrestrial nature into this animal body on a visceral cellular level and land here. And as soon as I did, not only did my extraterrestrial self feel more a part of humanity, but my animal body was at ease. It could rest. It could be in its parasympathetic nervous system, knowing its connection, aware of the greater, but very relaxed and at home in this body and on this earth. And then life began to get a lot more playful and pleasurable as well. Because these bodies, their sexual nature is actually very natural and organic, and it's not dependent upon another person or place. It's simply dependent upon us being in this body, breathing in here and into our environment. And I tell you, you can get occupational arousal simply by having conversations of the right frequency when inside this body. And there is much beauty here.
Wow. Amazing. I just love seeing you light up like that. When we first started, and now you're like coming out of your, your shell, and it's just amazing to witness. Yeah, how beautiful. So from there, did you start then? People were like drawn to you because you're obviously so magnetic and wanting to receive support, like where do you go from there? I mean, it's just like you said, it's a playground.
It is a playground, and you don't have to take life so seriously anymore.
Uh-huh.
The beauty. And it doesn't mean that the work's over, because the evolutionary process is constant. But what happens is, once the heavy stuff is shifted, then, and you get the hang of the Earthwalk on what it's about, then you can engage much more with the adventure that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, programming from the mainstream matrix is to avoid pain, avoid suffering. But when we realize that actually any pain or suffering is simply an invitation to go in, that we no longer try to distract or avoid. You know, I love living in a pain-free body that has access to the ecstatic field. So if I experience something that brings my body into contraction, or something that has an emotional charge, I don't avoid it or try and run away from it. I dive into it. Because I want to go to the root, resolve it, bring it to coherence, so that I can relax again in this expanded body, in our natural state of being, in our nature.
Yeah, but the trick is doing that with compassion, because I was doing that for a really long time. Like, you know, kind of like it was like I want you to go away, even though I was saying I'm doing this with love and I'm holding space for whatever the sensations were. There's still at the, you know, further back, there was like this, but really, I just want you to go, like, you know? So it's that in and of itself is a practice, right? To be able to have the curiosity without the agenda.
Yeah, definitely. The new earth frequencies don't operate with agendas.
Right.
You actually can't have an agenda, because if you have an agenda, it becomes a hook.
Yes.
And remembering that the absolute foundation stone of this embodiment and evolution process is unconditional love of self. You've got to love yourself so much, so deeply, that you'll never compromise your truth again.
I love that. And
when we stop compromising our truth and really come into coherence with the truth beyond mind, we also very quickly master discernment in this dimension and others. Because if we are in full alignment and coherence of truth beyond mind without agenda, you can feel the slightest fluctuations when people are not in their truth. And therefore your mastery of discernment starts to begin. And when I say we must master discernment in this dimension and others, it's because a lot of people begin their process of awakening. When we do that, we actually bring in through a lot more light. We become like a lighthouse, in fact. And we are seen in this dimension and others. So it's actually more important for us to embody our own lighthouse and to find our space in this dimensionally. Because which many refer to as the fourth dimension, or the astral planes, there are many beings out there. And a lot of people get excited when they can start communicating to all these beings. But you can spend the rest of your life distracted in the fourth dimensional plane of existence, where the astral planes are. And life becomes a bit like a game of snakes and ladders. It's like everyone's talking about fifth dimensional reality, that, you know, we can live in the fifth dimension now. And people might be in the third, be able to see things or communicate with things and beings in the fourth, and then have momentary experiences of the fifth, and then get dragged back down again. Now, it isn't right or wrong, but know that there's a lot more dimensions available to us now, even beyond fifth dimension. And if we want to live in it and master it and embody that, we can. But mastering discernment in this dimension and others is a massive key to it.
Mm-hmm.
Not all light beings are without agenda.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's
do you want to clarify agenda, just in case someone wants to know what your idea of that word is?
Yeah, one place I have witnessed this in myself in earlier days, and with a lot of people who are referring them to themselves as light workers or planetary grid workers. They are getting information to show up at certain points on the planet and do certain things. Mm. Now, my question to them is, where is your guidance coming from? Mm. And if it's coming from outside of yourself, who is it coming from? Mm. And do you know what you're actually doing? Mm. Because when, from my experience working with others and the planetary field, when we fell into darkness 2,500 years ago, and our galactic and inner earth gateways collapsed, many were compromised. We didn't have the time to shut them all down, close them up effectively and safely. Many were compromised. So that allowed many beings from this galaxy and others who did not have a rite of passage on our planet to access it. Mm-hmm. And therefore, although many have been cleared out, there are still some here running their agendas on the planet. Mm-hmm. Masquerading as being here for our new earth when they're not actually, they have agendas. Mm-hmm. And I don't, where the old earth system was very much a grid system, the new earth system in my perception is very different. Mm-hmm. It is not a grid as such. Mm-hmm. And it's coming on one person at a time as we align the bodies and open the pathways to source through the new earth architecture. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that pathway is everyone's personal access. It doesn't belong to anyone or anything. Mm-hmm. Out. Mm-hmm. And it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
This planet has the most profound patience for of any being I know when it comes to humanity, particularly now during this awakening period. If you want to know what unconditional love is, drop into GAIA's heart. Is not outside of self, for we are no longer separate than. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Wow. So are you just out in nature all day with your hands on the earth, barefoot? What is your life like?
So my bumper. If I had a car, my bumper sticker would read, I'd rather be naked in nature.
Yeah, right.
So I was very grateful when I was guided to base myself in a tropical country for the time being. It's a lot easier to hear.
True story.
So yeah, I feel what's important is slowing down and making space. Mm. The frequencies of the new earth, as far as I've experienced so far, do not operate on the sympathetic nervous system. They operate from the parasympathetic nervous system. Rest, digest, rest and relaxation, regeneration, rejuvenation, nervous system. Mm-hmm. So what does it mean to really slow down? How do we do that? Well, simple things is I have a digital detox between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. I wake in the morning with the sun. I greet the sun. you wouldn't believe how much energy and information our sun brings us every morning. If you can show up bare feet on the earth and greet the sun gazing at sunrise. And because my soul consciousness does a lot of work at nighttime, then a morning practice is really important. You know, waking up in the morning, hydrating the body first of all, depending upon what temperature climate you're living in, that's like half a liter to a liter of water in the morning. Empty the bowels. Your large intestine due to or operate between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. That's when you want to be doing elimination. And then my morning practice is usually a combination of breath work, Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga. Because you need a physical and energetic integrative practice and a practice that's going to support us with a bamboo body, a strong and a soft body. Strength alone and a lot of weight training is not good because our body may be strong, but it's not subtle. It's not. So energy still has issues flowing through. So we need a soft and strong body, or the bamboo body. And then my day opens for meetings such as meeting with you all now, or one-on-one work. And generally, the only things that I diary are my session work, my dance classes, and any particular nature activities. Otherwise, make space. Make space for the mystery, make space for the magic, make space for the universe to interact with you, to dance with, teach you how to dance. And then I'm not online having conversations after sunset. That gets closed. Watching the sunset is as important and as beneficial as sunrise because it also informs our body. Now's the time to come to bed. Prepare yourself to sleep tonight. Really, because we're talking about exercise and self-care and well-being, take care of what you are ingesting. And I'm not talking about just foods, fluids. It's also Wi-Fi, conversations, communications, you know. We are creators, creating our reality consciously or unconsciously. Therefore, every thought, every word, every action contains energy, it contains consciousness, and it's creating. So mindful of thoughts, words, and actions because we are creating our reality that way. Rather feed your energy to that which you want to create.
There are so many pearls. I want to be writing these all down.
We're blessed we've got recording now. It's all there.
Right.
It's so important, the simple basics. And this is why it's really important to go through this foundation process of cleaning and clearing the physical and energetic body and really coming home to our body. Because so many are considering the process of ascension, I'm out of here. It's nothing about leaving. It's about fully embodying and integrating and landing with full connection to our multidimensional self. Now, if we try to connect to that without fully anchoring in here, it's a recipe for disaster. It's like going out kite surfing, learning how to kite surf when there's a storm coming. And I've actually had people come to me who have torn the two apart.
Wow.
They've busily tried to connect to more of their dimensional reality without doing their foundational work. Remember, there's nothing we need to put in here. All exists in connection, We're here to bring it into coherence. So bringing it to coherence happens when we unpack that which is not us, which is not ours, essentially at a soul level.
And so when you're supporting your one-to-one clients, is that part of the process of supporting them to kind of unpack or disengage, or like you've also said, connect the parts that have been kind of ripped apart?
Very much. The intake time, I'll usually become familiar with somebody's conscious memories. And then with permission to enter their universe, I literally come into their universe because I need to understand also the way they organize reality and experience life as they experience, to help them bring them into coherence with who they are, who is not who I am. And this was really fascinating because I did a lot of group work for a number of years and led a lot of sacred journeys to different places of power on the planet as well. And when I completed my last planetary journey in December solstice 2019 in Peru and Machu Picchu, I got told very specifically, there'll be no more journeys for 2 years. Dissolve your websites. It's time you learned how to operate fully on universal law of attraction. And the people who need to work with you will come to you. And it's like, okay. I was ready to stop and rest. Along came COVID. That gave me a full 12-month cycle in my birth plan to rest.
Wow.
My body was also going through her transition of menopause, which was fascinating, well, which is another whole chapter. But such a blessing to have this time, shut everything down. And my diary was booked at least 6 to 8 weeks in advance the whole way through. As people came to me, and they were individuals that are here to specifically serve in the new earth frequencies. Is available to us here now. Our new earth frequencies is being made available to us by the incoming souls. The parents who have done their work have been able to become portals for the incoming ones, new ones on the planet, to arrive fully intact, fully aligned, fully connected. They know love. They live in truth. They live in unity. They don't know what is not, and they're not here to drop out of it. And because they landed fully intact, they've also landed with the new earth architecture.
Wow.
So now this is available to us because of them. So even us older models, when we're doing enough work, what we do is we anchor through the new earth architecture. And what it does, it's reduced the really heavy, dense physical and emotional processing most of us familiar with. It takes less than half the time. If we can find the bodies, come into coherence with our soul, anchor through the new earth architecture. The new earth architecture is a place beyond personal and planetary karma. And where our evolutionary progress has been very step by step up until now, it's like a quantum leap to new earth architecture. And we are able to live that here now.
My heart chakra is just like radiating right now with this. Just incredible. It's like bursting. Yeah.
It's a place, it's the unified field of love is what the new earth frequency contain. And this is how we are meant to be living here.
Right.
Regardless of what is playing out on the planet,
Mhm.
We and can access this and live this now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. That
And this
message is like
yeah.
the message.
And it is so available here and now. And this is why I see the newest structures are very natural, organic, and sustainable. If it's not natural, if it's not organic and sustainable, it's not of the new earth frequencies.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this is how people are coming on one person at a time as pillars of the new earth. They become their own stargate.
Mhm. Mhm.
Quite literally. And this is why the embodiment, commanding the space, is vital, because when you become a stargate, you want to know who you're opening to
Yeah, right.
what
Yeah,
you're opening.
that's right. Mhm. Yeah, it takes setting boundaries to a whole new level.
And that's that unconditional love of self, no compromise.
Mhm. Mhm. Which that's like the biggest journey, because if one doesn't have that intact, and then that's, how does one know what self-love is if they don't know what self-love is, right? And so it's like this amazing journey of like, oh, I can love myself even more. Oh, here's another layer and level. I could go deeper. Like it's just been, yeah, it's incredible to open to the infinite love that is available.
And so important. And a lot of us never received it or experienced it. It's one of those keys, from our mother, to be able to receive unconditional love is just as important as our father acknowledging us. But I worked a lot with, first I must honor my mother for loving unconditionally her daughters. But I worked a lot with people who weren't wired with unconditional love. And it was really interesting because I could love them, but it was my role to challenge them and to call their shadows. And it's almost like they didn't have the neurology to be challenged and loved together. It's
right.
it scrambled things and broke things down, and you could see things actually physically and energetically deconstructing. How can she say that to me and still love me?
Yeah.
With what I was doing unconsciously and still love me for it. And it's so love is unconditional.
And limitless.
It is, as is our potential and our energy access is infinite.
That's right.
We are these beings of unlimited potential in an environment of infinite possibility.
And so you're like the gatekeeper of connecting people to their infinite potential and like infinite love, it sounds like with all your tools.
Yeah, I get referred to as many things.
I'm sure. Right. Yeah. We've tapped into so many different things, pieces of you already, like with the sensuality piece and all of it. So yeah, there's no one way to define you. I get it.
Anymore. That's why it's kind of an archaeologist of the soul, a new earth architecture, because I also help align new earth projects and businesses with the planetary system. And some people just call me lady. So tea lady on the horizon for those that are ready to.
Oh my gosh. I am so incredibly grateful that you are here sharing your wisdom, light, and love, all of it. Let's see. So I'm going to put in the comments after we finish up in just a minute, all the ways that everyone can connect with you and reach out to you and go even further. Let's see. I'm going to come over to the Facebook page and see if we have any questions. I'm not seeing any questions yet, but everyone, please know that feel free to write any comments or questions, and we can always circle back and respond to them when we see them. because the whole point of this amazing community is to support one another and to go deeper on our journeys. And yeah, so I personally am more than willing and happy to respond to any questions and comments. So yeah. Any last pearls before we close?
I'd like to really personally thank you for inviting me to share this journey with you and your community, Carrie. And really to honor each and every person who is listening to our sharing today, to our journey today, for showing up for yourself, for answering your soul's call, for having the courage and the dedication, for making this commitment to yourself. Because every person listening to this matters. And there's a high possibility that every person listening to this has amazing aspects of themselves to bring into service on our planet if they have not already begun. So I am grateful for everyone. For this, it's a group journey. We're not alone anymore, and the new earth is definitely, which is where my bee project has been birthed, when I was called by the bees to come and listen to what their consciousness wants to implement. It's because everything they do is for the hive. Everything we do is actually for humanity and our planet. And when we learn to operate like that, we will bring the new earth into manifestation faster than you know.
That's right.
I'm very grateful.
Yeah. Infinite love and gratitude. Thank you so much. And thank you, beautiful community, for being here and being part of this journey. Yeah, it's just an incredible honor. Have an incredible rest of your day. And yeah, just infinite love.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Well, good dreams, everybody.
Yeah.